it's a tool to use as part of caregiving. So if someone is agitated, resistant to drinking water or going to bed or taking a shower, we've got videos that puts people in a more receptive mindset to do that thing.
Welcome to Startup Health TV, where we celebrate the entrepreneurs and the innovators who are transforming health. I'm Logan Plaster. We're here at the Alzheimer's Association International Conference, AAIC, and I'm with Bill Yanowski from Zinnia, CEO and co-founder. Bill, great to see you.
Great to see you, Logan. It's great to be here as well. It's a great event.
Yes, it's been great. It's been really great to get to know Zinnia. You joined the Alzheimer's Moonshot at Startup Health a few months ago, right? And to learn about you and Allison and the team, it's been fascinating. As a way to get into the company and understanding it, you have an impressive media CV, and I'm kind of curious how you were brought out of those roles, and what was it about the idea of Zinnia that caught your imagination, got you excited, and made you willing to jump into a healthcare startup, which is a tough task?
Absolutely. So it all comes down to individual relationships and stories. If you talk to anyone who's in aging services or Alzheimer's or dementia, it often comes down to the story of a person. And it could be a person as a caregiver you took care of, it could be someone that you know, and for me, that story was Allison. So she was a caregiver to her husband who had early onset frontotemporal dementia, and she was using a solution to try and, a media solution, using video, to try and find ways to engage him, to calm him, and to help him manage day-to-day activities. And when I was connected to her through another colleague of mine, it was just a mission that I wanted to be part of. And there's so much satisfaction and difficulty that comes with working at an early stage startup in the healthcare space. But you know, the impact is really amazing, and it spurs us to keep going.
So the product itself, therapeutic television, you might say, right?
Yeah.
It kind of looks like slow TV, but with all of this thoughtfulness behind it, this really careful. So talk to me about what the programming looks like.
Sure. So the programming is research backed, and we've tested and iterated over time to really hone it. It's something that where we take, it's slow moving, it's gently paced, it's free of plot and dialogue, and it takes everything about regular TV and regular media that people living with dementia often find themselves consuming, but having difficulty in triggering because of a commercial or an inappropriate topic, or it's too fast paced to track. And that leads to negative behaviors and agitation and an increased caregiving burden.
Yeah.
So we strip that all away, and we build all of the content from the ground up with the viewer with cognitive impairment in mind.
Okay. Talk to me more about the caregiver side. Yesterday, while I was coming to this conference, I posted on social media to my followers, hey, what would you like to know about Alzheimer's when I'm interviewing these folks? And one thing that came to the surface was, how can we get more resources into the hands of caregivers? And so I thought of Zinnia. How does your product change the life of a caregiver? Like, how is it different for them to have this tool?
So it works in two ways. One, it's a tool that empowers them to use as part of caregiving. So if someone is agitated, you can show them a topic that they love and redirect them to something else. If someone is resistant to drinking water or going to bed or taking a shower, we've got videos that model or cue that behavior that puts people in a more receptive mindset to do that thing. And then also, it's always sometimes hard for caregivers to connect with the person, to find meaningful engagement, moments of joy, and Zinnia helps them do that. Now, that's the tool basis of it, but from a caregiver as well, when they use that tool, it helps them to reduce their own stress, which is incredibly significant because caregiving is hard. It offers them opportunities for respite. So if you can put on a video that's engaging enough for 10, 15 minutes, you can do something around the house that you've been putting off that you need to do, or you can just get a little time to yourself. So, and then we've also told that caregivers, when it's on in the background for the person that they're supporting, it calms them. They find it enjoyable. We hear from caregivers who say, I bought it for my husband, but I watch it all the time too.
Calming them down. How difficult is it to measure effectiveness? Does it actually calm people down? Does it actually help them to do those daily tasks? How do you measure that?
So we've done research. We've done 2 years of research with the University of British Columbia and Vancouver General Hospital. And they've tested Zinnia both in long-term care, homes, and hospital settings. And so they've observed that Zinnia does reduce agitation. It does help with ADLs, especially when used as part of a routine, because routine is so important with dementia, and it helps people to engage and connect. So most of that is qualitative. But we are doing some work to try to quantify reduction in agitation. We're
Okay.
doing some work with Duke University, measuring cortisol, the stress hormone in saliva for caregivers and people living with dementia. So that's another way where we can quantify it.
You said caregivers and people with dementia, so the stress levels of the caregiver just as important in that scenario.
Absolutely, they're a team, and if the person with dementia is happy, the caregiver is happy.
Yeah.
So this tool serves both of them.
So if you're able to prove that you can bring down agitation, my guess is that you can reduce the reliance on drugs.
Absolutely.
What's that equation like?
Sure. So Zinnia is a non-pharmacological intervention. We have testimonials of people who were regularly on antipsychotic medication, who a caregiver knew that a particular video about their background that connected with them as a person could potentially connect with them and redirect them. And they were able to successfully do that. In this case, it was the baby's video,
Okay.
because this person was a pediatric nurse for most of her
wow.
career.
Wow.
And they changed her care plan and took her off that antipsychotic. So that's another area that we'd like to do some work on, kind of find a pilot partner in long-term care, figure out how often they dispense antipsychotics across the community, use Zinnia for a couple of months, and
Yeah.
then check what that result is later. And we expect to find a decline.
Yeah, I just want to zero in on that story for a second because it's easy to miss the intensity of that interaction. You're talking about somebody who previously a pediatric nurse, physician. They're getting to the point of agitation that they have to be basically tranquilized. This is a traumatic event for them and the caregiver to have to be given an antipsychotic drug, and yet by watching something that brings them joy, that actually can take away that need. I mean, it's really a dramatic scenario.
Yeah, and the funny thing about it is what we're doing seems simple from the outside,
Yeah.
right? It's television, a little bit slower. It's something that people normally do and watch, but we can use it in intentional ways to create real meaningful impact.
Give me a couple examples. I know there's some ways that you're super thoughtful about the videos that you might not notice if you just sit down and start watching it. Colors, timing, tell me a little bit about that.
Yep, sure. So all the videos are very visually vivid, and we use music and sound effects in the background to get people's attention. It's a really great multi-sensory experience. If you're watching a video, yes, you'll find out it's a little bit slower. We'll stay on the frame of what we're looking at for longer than maybe you or I might want to watch that. But for someone whose brain is processing things more slowly, it allows them the time to recognize what they're watching and enjoy it. We will generally don't have plot or dialogue, but there is a narrative arc. So there might be a day, the breakfast video, for instance. It's not just people sitting at a table eating breakfast. It's eggs and chickens and milk and cows and all of the breakfast kind of coming together in
Yeah.
a narrative way. And it really helps to ease transitions and get people more in the mood to partake in that meal.
Yeah. What kind of response are you getting from a community like AAIC, which is dominated by scientists and sort of hardcore research? How do they see and how do you see Zinnia fitting into that larger ecosystem?
Sure. Care. So if everybody succeeds here,
Yeah.
Zinnia won't be necessary.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad outcome for the world, right? But until they do, and all the therapeutics and the diagnostics are more early stage, but
Yeah.
once you get to mid to late stage, there's less that, can happen for someone living with dementia. So,
Are you seeing that there's not a lot here for late stage care?
well, I just think that a lot of the research right now is focused on,
Yeah.
the new drugs are effective mostly at the early stage.
Yeah.
And so it's about diagnosing people early, getting the biomarkers and
Yeah.
developing more. So all of that is excellent, but there's a real understanding that there's a whole group of people who will need to be cared for, and that's growing, and how will we do that?
Yeah. It's no knock against what's happening here, but I do see a gap in innovation in the caregiver space. I mean, do you see that there's more opportunity in that area?
I think there's some new things that are coming out that the CMS guide model is a whole model to change how care is delivered and reimbursed, and it's a kind of a holistic kind of thing with care navigation and caregiver support and training. So it brings the caregivers and the person living with dementia together as part of this. It's brand new. It's going to go for 8 years, and I think that's a large place where there's innovation in caregiving, and that's a place where we can help as well. We're working with a guide model awardee on the West Coast, university medical program for Alzheimer's and dementia, and they're providing hundreds of Zinnia subscriptions to the caregivers and people that they support. So we're excited about that, and we want to see that expand.
That's awesome. It makes a lot of sense. So what's next? So over the next 12 months, what should we be looking forward to?
We're going to continue to test and iterate on content with new formats. We are going to bring in more personalization. We are going to, meaning the ability to create content faster for you. Okay. You can say, hey, I'm interested in motorcycles or something like that. And we're going to be able to use some of the new AI tools that are out there to create our Zinnia style of content kind of at scale for Logan. Because personalization is so important.
Yeah. In the same way that we're getting used to sort of recommended songs or recommended videos, like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to do work on outcomes testing. So we're going to try to put some metrics to the things that we're seeing. Okay. And then we're going to use that to market beyond the individual family caregiver to organizations that support groups of caregivers, like that guide model participant on the West Coast that we're working with, like the state of New York, who we're working with to provide Zinnia to caregivers in New York State.
I love it.
And others like that.
Bill, thanks for giving me the update. I love how elegantly simple it appears on the front end, how thoughtful it is on the back end, how much good it can do for patients and for their families. You're doing a lot of good, and I wish you the best.
Thank you, and thanks to everything that Startup Health is doing for the ecosystem, the Alzheimer's Moonshot. We had that reception yesterday. I got to meet all the other companies and founders, and it's really a great community, and we're already working on ideas how to work together and collaborate.
Well, okay, before we run, any examples? Like, how have you experienced that community in action?
So it's, through the various sessions, you get to know people, and then everybody has these offshoot conversations. And so we've worked with one company that's put us in touch with who they're using from a digital marketing perspective. So on the business side, how do we advance things? And then we're actually going to integrate potentially our product with another product that's working on, as an enhancement or a complement to what they're doing.
I love it.
So yeah, lots of stuff in the works.
Bill, I wish you the best, and have a great conference.
Thank you very much. Likewise.